the former president will make his first public appearance since leaving office on this coming Sunday. He's expected to speak at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Florida.
That event expected to focus on the future of the Republican Party. Sources confirm Trump will touch on that issue during his speech. NewsNation correspondent Michael Schur is live for us in Orlando tonight, where the conference kicked off today. Michael.
Marty, Rob, good evening to both of you. Yeah, it's in Orlando this year. Ordinarily, this takes place in National Harbor just outside D.C., but because of the restrictions in that part of the country and the loose regulations here in Florida, they decided to hold CPAC here in Florida this year. There are going to be 46 elected members of Congress who will be here, senators and members of the House as well. Of course, many political pundits and a lot of the most fervent conservative voters in America. And we took a look at what we expect to see this week. With a Democrat in the White House and the Republican Party enduring some inner turmoil, the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC, is beginning to gather in Orlando, where a Sunday return of their favorite, recently defeated president is highly anticipated.
Donald Trump wanted to come back. Part of that is because he might himself make a comeback.
After tonight's welcome dinner, CPAC has 2 full days before the former president speaks, and Matt Schlapp, chair of the American Conservative Union, who puts on CPAC, says that they have work to do to grow their base.
It's about the Republican Party encouraging non-Republicans who don't like socialism to join the coalition.
But it may be Republicans themselves that pose the biggest challenge. An exchange Wednesday among House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and his third-in-command Liz Cheney in Washington, emblematic of the rift that persists.
Do you believe President Trump should be speaking, and former President Trump should be speaking at CPAC this weekend?
Yes, he should.
Congressman Cheney?
That's up to CPAC. I've been clear in my views about President Trump and the extent to which following January 6th, I don't believe that he should be playing a role in the future of the party or the country.
On that high note, thank you all very much.
The Republican Party is split a little bit. I mean, we'd have to acknowledge that. You saw Leader McCarthy yesterday, Representative Cheney. What'd you make of that?
I was on the McCarthy side of the answer. I wasn't on the Cheney side of the answer.
But even if it isn't found in Orlando this week, Cheney has a lot of Republican support.
Liz Cheney is representing what I think is a fourth to a third of the party that would like to head in a new direction without Donald Trump's leadership. And that is a shift that happened after January 6th, after the insurrection.
Republican Evan McMullin, a never-Trumper who ran against Trump in 2016 as an independent, calls that a positive shift, but still sees his party as focused too much on loyalty to just one person.
I think that's what you're seeing is a continuation of that represented in the programming and the speakers and the messaging coming out of CPAC.
If Donald Trump was this failure at the ballot box, I don't think people would be pining for him.
So a few miles from Disney World, the real fantasy land for many here, would be another Trump run in 2024. Well, you've got $50,000, you're going to the window in Vegas. You can either put it on Donald Trump will run in 2024, That's
a good way to ask the question. I guess I think there's a slightly more than 50-50 chance that he runs. If he does run, I think there's an overwhelming chance that he gets the nomination.
So we do see that split in the party. We don't see it necessarily at CPAC, where everyone seems to be in lockstep. They do a straw poll every year. Presumably they'll do one this year, and I would expect that Donald Trump would do very well. He got one more vote today, too, Marnie and Rob. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader, has said that if it was Donald Trump who's the nominee in 2024, he would vote for Donald Trump. And you have to remember, he voted to acquit Donald Trump, then had some convicting rhetoric for the former president in the trial in the Senate. Now he says that he would vote for Donald Trump. Back to you in Chicago.
Appreciate it, Michael. Thank you.